What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what the news is saying about Tesla, what's happening with the economic calendar, and something very big that Elon Musk announced that's really important for Tesla too. But before I break into detail about what's going on with Tesla for the week, before I talk about what my price prediction is for the future, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with Tesla. So, when it comes to Tesla from a technical standpoint, there is some potential for this to bounce, in my opinion, as we have a triple bullish divergence developing and a potential Wyckofian accumulation structure right over here. But the question is, can this thing bounce? What levels should we be watching for? And what levels should you be watching for just in case this thing ends up turning south? I'll be breaking this down in just a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about the market, the news, and something very big for Tesla. So, as far as data goes for the whole market, at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the CB Lending Index report coming out. That's for the month of December. This is very minor data, nothing too crazy. But at 11:30 a.m., we have the bill auctions coming out. That could cause some volatility, so watch at that time. Besides that, all the data is very minor, shouldn't be too crazy. We're also kind of like approaching the silence period of the Fed. We're not going to have way too many of those like Fed speakers giving their speeches, which could help the market flow a little bit better. Besides that, the data is going to be very minor for the first couple of days for the week. But things become more serious starting Thursday when we have the GDP numbers, not to mention PCE data for Friday. But besides that, Monday is going to be very quiet for data, nothing too crazy. However, when it comes to earnings, Monday is going to be very quiet as well, but the later days will become a lot more intense. So tomorrow we have the Bank of Hawaii announcing its earnings before market open. Very, very minor, should not affect the whole market much. Then later on, after market close, tomorrow we have United Airlines, Logitech, and just a couple of others announcing their earnings. And then things become more serious between Tuesday and Thursday, right? For Tuesday, we have Netflix and Verizon announcing their earnings. For Wednesday, we have AT&T in the morning, not to mention Tesla and IBM during the afternoon session. And Tesla is going to be very, very important. We'll be watching to see what Tesla ends up announcing. It's going to affect the whole market, and Tesla is going to make a massive move during this time, in my opinion. And then for Thursday, we have American Airlines in the morning, then Intel and Visa after market close. Intel is going to be very important too. But the most important piece of earnings is going to be Tesla. Get ready for this. Mark your calendars. On Wednesday after market close, we have Tesla's earnings. Now, when it comes to other things going on with the markets, I want to call out something very important. The overall fear and greed index. This has been updated for right now. This is still at the higher end of greed, meaning it's not at extreme greed just yet. We're not there yet, which suggests that there is potential upside potential for the markets. The market could push a little bit higher despite this, as crazy as that may sound. On top of this, the market momentum is at extreme greed. This has been at extreme greed for quite some time, making these new highs. Could continue on this trend. There's no sign of this stopping yet. The put and call option positioning right now is not at extreme greed, it's still at greed. So we're going to be watching to see how this changes as well. It's going to be very important to watch this. And the market is once again attempting to push higher. So this does suggest there is upside potential for the markets. We're not at extreme greed just yet. Finally, one of the most important indicators for the markets will be the market volatility, the VIX, and its 50-day moving average, in my opinion. We're at neutral. The VIX is just barely holding above the support at the 50-day moving average. If we lose this, if the VIX loses the support, it's going to be dropping a lot harder because of the market pushing up higher. If we hold the 50-day, this thing's going to try to hold up. It's at 13.24 right now, so very close to where we are. I'll be talking more about that a little bit later. As far as Tesla goes, we have some very, very bullish news from Elon Musk, at least for the long term. Musk claims that we should be expecting roughly 1 billion humanoid robots in the 2040s. Now, just know, guys, that Elon Musk's projections, his predictions, they're not always going to be perfect. He does make mistakes, but I do believe he has a very good point about this, though. That's the main thing about Elon Musk. You want to take his points in, not just take everything too literally. So, in my opinion, is this a possibility? Maybe it is a possibility. But the main thing to take away from this is that the humanoid robot business, the business of AI, the business of AI technology, and AI learning is going to be absolutely massive for the next few decades. It's going to be huge. And Tesla is one of the leading companies for that development. That's what makes Tesla very bullish, in my opinion. Their AI development could be even bigger than Tesla and its cars itself. That's going to be massive. So AI is still huge. I do agree with Elon Musk's point here about how, there are going to be humanoid robots in the future. Of course, there are going to be a lot more robots coming out, and AI is going to become a lot more advanced. But where I don't see myself fully agreeing with is us having roughly 1 billion of these robots, because we can't truly estimate it. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. We can't truly predict everything exactly perfectly, like when it comes to numbers like that. So who knows? Maybe it's going to be, 100 million. Maybe it's going to be 500 million. Who knows? But if anything, his claim still has a lot of valid points, a lot of truth behind it. I do agree with his claim about the development of AI. There's also some news coming out that German auto suppliers struggle as the Chinese EV makers, like, they're basically referring to BYD as a Tesla beating company, which I find very funny. It's once again seeing a lot of changes. So this is some big news that has come out. It's not going to be that horrible for BYD, but I do find it very interesting how Tesla has to get brought into this. The media is painting BYD as the Tesla beating company. They're saying that BYD is better, basically, but you have to remember that BYD is not the same as Tesla in different ways, because BYD specializes in their vehicles. They're not the same as Tesla, which is developing so many other technologies. We have Tesla Energy, not to mention Tesla continuing to develop AI in ways that haven't been done before. So I still think Tesla is, it has so much more potential, especially with AI. And I think that it doesn't make sense to just compare these companies all the time. It's just what the media likes to do. There's also some news coming out from the street that Tesla and Elon Musk will rock the markets this week, especially because of Tesla's earnings. That's going to be very important. So we'll be watching this as well. It's going to be very impactful. The whole market is going to be making some massive, massive moves. On top of this, I just want to mention that the volume was 102 million. It's actually going up a little bit. If this might start to surge, especially thanks to earnings, which could lead to more upside potential, so long as there's no horrendous pieces of news that come out. So there's potential for this to go up and help Tesla push higher. On top of this, Barclays has come out. They're giving Tesla an equal weight rating with the markets, saying that Tesla should perform equally. On top of this, we also have the price price ratio dropping. This has been dropping quite a bit because Tesla's been relatively weak, but this could change just temporarily approaching its earnings. Mondays tend to be green historically 53% of the time. Tuesdays tend to be green about 52% of the time. So there is some upside potential thanks to that. And then look for volatility around 2 o'clock p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. During those hours for the last couple of weeks, Tesla's been a bit more volatile. Besides that, there's not really anything else changing in the data. It was relatively weak, but this could change very soon. So Tesla has earnings on Wednesday, right? And typically, approaching earnings, Tesla does tend to outperform the market a bit. It does tend to push up. Now, this could change depending on the news, but if we kind of set that factor aside, because I can't really predict all the headlines or anything like that, I would say there's a very good chance that Tesla will try to uptrend a bit as we get closer to earnings. There's a very good chance it may attempt to bounce so long as we hold these particular levels. So why am I talking about that? Let me close some of these tabs so my screen doesn't lag like it did last time. I just want to mention that there's a couple of very important factors affecting Tesla. So if you look at the technicals, on the 4-hour time frame, Tesla has a nice triple bullish divergence developing. It's developing a bullish divergence. These don't always play out, but most of the time they do. So this is one indicator suggesting we might see a bounce. Secondly, we have a nice wick that formed on the 4-hour time frame. We saw some buyers kind of step in at the end of the day on Friday. And with the market looking bullish, because Nvidia looks strong to me, QQQ looks very strong, so does SPY. This could lead to some buying pressure for Tesla. Tesla managed to end up closing green on Friday. Despite how weak it was looking, it ended up closing green because the market did help it to some extent. This is because of how order flow tends to be kind of collective throughout the market. That's why on some days when SPY is like kind of red, Tesla tends to follow it. Tesla has been very weak as of recent because of lots of bad news, price cuts, and etc. But because we're approaching earnings, there's a good chance Tesla might attempt to bounce. So, what are some levels on Tesla to watch, or what am I basically watching for? So, hypothetically, if we're bearish, okay, make sure you watch support at 212. If we lose 212, there's minor support at 210. Then we have this 207 to 208 range. That's going to be very key for Tesla. Excuse me, Tesla flat. If we lose 208, a big drop is coming to 205. And then if we lose that, we're going to be sinking all the way down to the low 200s. A big drop is going to be coming if we lose the low from Friday. That's if we get some very, very bad news. If we're bullish, you want to see this thing break above 2 214-ish, around that area. Then we have 216 coming next. That's where we have this imbalance up here. If we break above this, I think we're going to easily push up to 220. I think a big move is coming to fill this gap up here into the 220s. Tesla will push up if we get above 216. So what do I think Tesla's going to do? What is my prediction? Okay, so I gave you guys some levels to watch for if you're bearish, levels to watch for if you're bullish. What do I think is most likely going to play out? The answer is I think we're going to see some upside. I say that because we have a triple bullish divergence firstly. We closed above 212, which is a sign of strength. The market looks kind of strong. I'll show you guys exactly why in just a few minutes. And on top of this, this looks like a Wyckofian accumulation schematic right over here. So institutions drop this thing. They're starting to buy these shares up. They're, when it drops, they're just grabbing liquidity down here, triggering stops which are set right here. And generally when they do this, we kind of like push down, then start pushing back up, and we start to fill these imbalances, especially if Tesla starts uptrending. So if we start like an uptrend, make a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low like this, we have this imbalance. This is going to act as a magnet and start pushing Tesla back up just temporarily. So here's a question: am I a big Tesla bull? Am I a big Tesla bear? Obviously, for the long term, for years to come, I'm a big Tesla bull. But for the next month, I'm not entirely sure because it's going to depend on earnings. That's why I'm not going to pick a side for the next month. I'm going to be waiting for that. But approaching earnings on Wednesday, Tesla generally does push up a bit. So there's a good chance with volume going up, Tesla might attempt to push up a little bit higher. So I do favor that a little bit more. So with that being said, I think the most likely possibility is Tesla kind of like shuffles a little bit. Then we see some buyers stepping in as the day goes on. We basically push up to 216-ish. We might break that and then make our way up to 220. That's my prediction for Tesla. A little bounce might be coming. Part of why I say that is because Tesla has been decimated. It's been getting hit very, very hard without much of a bounce. If you actually look at the last couple of days, it's just been dropping and dropping and dropping. I'm sorry, let me go back to the daily. I apologize about that, guys. If you look at the daily chart, it's dropping and dropping, dropping. 2 green days, a red day, a slight green day. It's been dropping like crazy. So it is due for a small bounce. And on top of this, look at the daily candlestick. This does look a little bit bullish. There's some potential for this thing to hold up and try to make its way back up to the 216 area, testing the 5 EMA, then eventually 220. So I think that's the most likely possibility. That's what I favor for Tesla. Now let's talk about some other tickers. How about SPY? What else could help Tesla would be the overall market. How is SPY looking? The answer is bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows, pushing up higher. If we're bearish, if there's a very bad piece of news, hypothetically, which I can't always predict, you want to be watching 481.36. If we lose that, there's 480. That's going to be critical support. If we lose 480, our next target is going to be around 478. If we're bullish, you want to see this thing break 483. If we break 483, my next target is going to be very close to 485. What does this look like in my opinion? Very simple. It's very simple for SPY in the QQQ, right? When you look at the charts, let's go back to some historical indicators, right? If you look at our MACD, it's very simple. When we get a bullish cross on the PPO down here, see the green histograms forming, we tend to see this thing push higher. We went from 430 all the way up to about 437 once we got this during one phase. Another phase, you saw this thing get a bullish crossover. We pushed up for 449 and went all the way up to 453 before turning. So we could push a few more dollars. Here, this thing got a slight bullish crossover. We went from 446 all the way up to about 470. So it got a big push up after getting this very, very nice push up, a bullish crossover on the PPO. So what's happening on the daily charts? The volume is going up, and look at the daily MACD right here. It's about to get a bullish crossover, good volume, strong candlestick, bullish looking technicals. This favors the upside a bit more. I think this favors the upside for another push. So I would say that that is the direction I'm favoring and might try to push higher. Could we gap down, kind of like chop a bit before we push up? Yes, we can. But I think that as long as we get above 483, our next target is 485. And I favor that a bit more on SPY. We also have a bullish wedge forming. Technicals favor this thing pushing up higher. It's identical with the QQQ. Same thing on the QQQ, guys. When we get those bullish crossovers on the daily PPO, we tend to push up higher. Let me just show you some examples of this. So like right here, the QQQ got a bullish crossover on the PPO. We went from 363 all the way up easily in just a few days to 372. Right here, we got a bullish crossover in the PPO. We could just start from here. We went from 404 all the way up in a couple of days to about 409. And now, with the volume going up, with the parabolic move to the upside, a bullish crossover on the PPO, it favors the upside. So just to be safe, let's just say there's a horrible piece of news, hypothetically. Watch 21.5 is key support. If we lose that, 420 is our next target. If we lose that, then 418 is next. A big drop will come if we lose 420. If we're bullish, you want to see it break 422.5. If we break that, I think it could get all the way up to 424 to 425. Which target do I prefer? What do I think is more likely? The answer is 424 to 425. I think we could be pushing up higher and get close to 425. What about Nvidia? Nvidia looks bullish. I think this thing is easily going to be pushing up higher. It's making higher highs and higher lows. And then on top of this, if you look at the daily, it looks very strong on Nvidia. We're just barely getting stopped by 595. Nvidia, in my opinion, is going to try to break 595. Looks very strong on the daily, good volume too, especially thanks to the Meta news about how Meta is going to be accumulating more of those AI chips from Nvidia. So I think there's a very good chance of 600 coming. It's going to try to break 600, make its way up to 602, then 605. Nvidia looks bullish. 600 plus should be coming quite easily. How about Aapl? Aapl looks pretty strong as well because if you look at Aapl on the daily time frame, bullish crossover on the PPO just happened just like that of SPY and the QQQ. And we haven't really finished this full measured move because it's very simple. One of the things my friends oftentimes call this formation is like a George W, a big George W. So when you look at the chart here, right, this looks like a big George W. Nice double bottom, nice bounce. Your target's going to be all the way up to 195 for the full measured move technically. But what do I think is going to play out? So let's go over some levels first before I give you guys my prediction. We have some supports at 190.5. I think if we lose that, we could be coming all the way down very close to the 188. And if you lose the 188, we turn a lot more bearish. We'll be coming down to 186.5, then 185, and start sinking. If we're bullish, you want to see it break 192.5. If you break that, you'll be pushing for 193.5, then eventually 195. What do I favor? I favor the upside. I think this thing is making higher highs and higher lows. It might cool off a little bit. It might come down to this imbalance here, back test 190.5, and then start pushing up higher. So we could be looking for a move to 192.5 at least on Monday because we have an unfilled gap. It hasn't filled this, and it might try to push a little bit higher as well. So it still looks bullish to me. Might come down first and then try to push up higher. Why do I also favor that? Another reason is the VIX, because like I mentioned earlier, the VIX was at the, or it is at the 50-day moving average, right? If we lose that support, we have a gap to fill all the way down to about 12.7. If we end up breaking down, you're going to be watching it for it to come down to fill that gap. Why is the VIX going to come down to fill the gap? Because of the market potentially pushing up higher. We have a nice head and shoulders like structure on the VIX, which suggests that downside is looking stronger, which means the market might be pushing up higher to cause this to happen. That's how the VIX looks, in my opinion. I'll be breaking down a little bit more details about that later. But make sure you watch this level. Do we bounce here or not? We're basically just barely holding the 50-day moving average. I'll be watching that as well. That's it for my main analysis on TradingView. Now let's just switch over to Webull just to do a couple more. On SoFi stock, this is looking potentially like it wants to bounce, but it depends on if we hold liquidity. If we lose 7.5, there's 7.2, then 7 flat. If we lose 7, we turn more bearish. If we're bullish, we want to break 7.65, then eventually, we could be testing 7.85 to fill this gap. To turn bullish, you want to break this 200 EMA and then start pushing higher. In my opinion, I think this looks bullish. It might be pushing up for 7.85. I do favor the upside a bit more looking at the daily, especially after that liquidity grab. On the IWM Russell 2000 looks bullish. Nice bullish looking daily candlestick. 193.5 should be tested, followed by 195. It looks bullish, especially thanks to the VIX sinking down and other indicators suggesting the market could push higher. On AMD, it's a little bit overbought, might come back down, grab liquidity at 170, then start pushing up higher for 175. If that breaks, 180 is coming. So look for a little drop, then a push up higher. It still looks bullish though. It does not look like it's done quite yet. On the daily time frame, the VIX looks bearish. The VIX looks like it's going to come down to fill this gap because the market might push up a little bit higher. On the dollar index, it's very indecisive on the daily. Very indecisive, very flat. We have to see this thing lose 103.19 to drop to 102.9. So I'll have to be watching that just to be safe. On Coinbase, this is indecisive as well. If this is a liquidity grab at 118, look for a bounce towards 130. Could try to bounce here, but just to be safe, I'll be waiting. On Google looks bullish on the daily. It's a little bit overbought, or it's close to overbought territory. Could come back down to 147.5, then bounce and push up for 150. So it looks like 150 is a possibility. it looks pretty good. It's actually holding up nicely for the bulls. Amazon, in my opinion, looks bullish because we have a bullish looking daily candlestick. We might start off a little weak, start off, grab liquidity again at 153.7 to 154, then bounce and start pushing for 157. It might come down a bit, then push up higher. 157 looks imminent. And then for Meta, Meta is also looking pretty strong because just look at the trend on Meta, right? Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. I think that's we could backtest 182.5 like this level here, then push up higher, and we may get very close to 385, and then break that. Could get very close to 387 and 390. So I think this looks a little bullish. I think that the majority of stocks are still holding up nicely. Do I think the market has a correction coming? I still think it will as we approach March, but we're not ready to correct yet. And I think SPY and QQQ still favor the bulls. As far as Tesla goes, I'm open minded to anything on Tesla because of the fact that the news could be very unpredictable, can be very spontaneous sometimes as well. But here's the thing about Tesla, okay? Tesla still has potential to bounce based off the indicators, based off the accumulation schematic that's forming, the patterns, the technicals, and all these other things do suggest a potential upside is imminence for Tesla, especially as we're approaching its earnings. So let's hope Tesla tries to hold these levels. I think the odds do favor, a nice push to the upside. So watch your levels, guys. Do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow morning for your pre-market update of the day. With that being said, enjoy some football, do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you. Tesla in the market to the moon because the long term is very bright, and peace out.